necessarily tribal or regional.
But I have said that.
All right, welcome back. If you are just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television. Now let's take a look at some of the stories that made headway on our dailies this morning, starting with the Daily Trust newspaper. The lead story there, APC convention shaky as cabal plots consensus. The riders' Buni committee yet to begin process. You'd also see deadly landmines await party. That's according to aggrieved chieftain. And would hold neck soon. That's according to the spokesperson. And there's a pictorial there that shows South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, who visited the country's parliament to inspect level of damage after a fire outbreak yesterday. And other stories there on page 7 on the Daily Trust newspaper states flight delays, cancellations, how airlines trample on passengers' rights. And on page 24, Kwankwaso Ganduje trade words over 2019 governorship election. Bandits kill 13 in Kaduna, Taraba, abduct 46. And other stories there, Buhari, governors Atiku, Tinubu, others mourn Olubadan. Sharia Council gets new president. Insecurity Association raises over 300 million for Sokoto East. Fire raises 250 shops in Anambra Market. Now, you know, Ayuba, the story about flight delays and cancellations and how airlines trample on passengers' rights, it's quite peculiar, you know, for us here in Nigeria, because most of the time, sometimes they cancel these flights, no apology, no announcement,
no explanation.
You know, it's really very sad. So
it's more like we are not going to fly. Do your worst.
Yes, and
I recall we had a guest here, an aviation expert, who, you know, will always come and give us perspectives, and he's nicknamed Must Fly.
Must Fly.
And sadly, you know, these days, one cannot even, you know, do anything. Once they, you know, cancel this flight, who do you report to? Who do you complain to?
Nobody.
You know, so it's really important that this is looked into. The rate of cancellation is really on the rise, and we hope that people will not take advantage of the whole conversation about COVID-19 and Omicron and all that.
You know, he actually said this is not really a COVID thing. He actually mentioned that, if you remember the other day, he said it's not really just a COVID thing.
Yes.
It's more of an attitudinal thing.
Well, let's hope that the right authorities wade into this and do the needful. Now, let's take a look at all the papers on our newspapers this morning. The Nation newspaper comes next, and we have the lead story there, Ibadan mourns, and then you see Olubadan dies, buried, Buhari, governors, Tinubu, others pay tributes, Balogun to ascend throne. So there you have it. The story is at the very top there. 2023 poll. Jonathan meets coordinators. APC governors back. APC governors backs, well, I can't see that, but something about APC governors. The next story there, COVID-19 tests for state house visitors. And then you would also see bandits kill 7 in Kaduna communities. Senate probes PPPRA's 200 million naira to foreign firms. And then the next one there, you would see Buhari states fighting lost battle on $418 million Paris Club cash. These are the stories that made the headlines on The Nation today.
Okay, let's take a look at other stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. The lead story there, budget. National Assembly folds Buhari, insists 6,576 extra projects. And National Assembly has power to drop, amend budget proposals. That's according to the House spokesman. Lawmakers have no right to introduce projects. It is an anomaly, says Itse Sage. Sage did not speak from position of law, but lack of understanding. Senate. Other stories there. Nigeria's inflation rate may be among world's highest in 2022. Wike visits Ikpeazu. Bauchi governor attacks Buhari, alleges anti-graft fight lopsided. And on page 13, Buhari eminent Nigerians mourn Olubadan Balogun to mount throne. And on page 20 on the Punch newspaper, reserves gained $5.12 billion in 2021 on Eurobond debt, IMF fund, others. These are some of the major stories on the Punch newspaper this morning.
Well, I can see very interesting there, the pictures on the Punch newspaper showing fund seekers, I believe from yesterday at the Oniru Beach in Lagos. I mean, look at the crowd.
That's quite
there. Massive crowd. I mean, I'm not sure anyone is talking about Omicron here.
No. Not even face masks.
People just don't care. They just want to have fun. And I think that, while we do that, we should do that with some caution. It's very important to celebrate responsibly.
Right.
So there you have it. The new year, it's a time to have some fun for many residents in Lagos. And there you'd see from that pictorial there. Let's take a look at all the stories on the papers today. The Blueprint newspaper have some very interesting stories. The lead story says, tackling insecurity in 2022 with 12 trillion naira budget in 7 years, Nigerians set agenda for troops and others. You'd also see the story has the following riders. Allocation rises from 1.04 trillion naira in 2016 to 2.4 trillion naira in 2022. We are at war. Allocation not too much. Justifiably spent, military source. And then you'd see also FG APC chieftain Lord Military says various platforms procured efficiently used. You'd see also results do not justify expenditure. That's according to experts now. CSOs, ex-OATUU scribe seek accountability. He wants citizen-driven security process. We are progressively moving in negative direction. That's according to the PDP. And then what security agencies should do differently, the citizens there are saying. And also you'd see fund seekers celebrating New Year at the Western Garden City in Dede, Abuja on Saturday. You'll also see beside that the pictorial there showing you some children and their parents having a nice time at Mr. Biggs during the New Year holiday at Isolo Road, Jakonde bus stop in Lagos. Myself, I had a reason to visit one of these parks.
Oh.
Very interesting. I had to take the kids out, and then you could see the massive crowd there. It was crazy. I wasn't expecting that, really.
Yesterday, Magic Land in Abuja, a lot of people were saying the whole of Abuja actually went to Magic Land yesterday up until 8 p.m. There were people everywhere. There was long queue. A lot of people didn't even get a chance to actually ride one of those what do they call them?
You mean
the rides?
the games? And
yes,
the toys
and the toys
that?
and the rides. It was massive yesterday.
Well, it's interesting, but the over concentration. I think that maybe we need more, of these, gardens and all these parks, within the FCT, so that it could decongest, the one that we have. It was as if the Magic Land is the only, park you could find in the FCT, even though we have the Millennium Park, but
there are no rides there. There are no rides there. So a lot of people want, you know,
somewhere they will catch real fun.
yes,
isn't it?
yes, yes.
Well, very interesting there. It shows you the mood in the country. Nigerians are having fun. Well, you'd see also other stories still on the Blueprint newspapers. Below the pictorial, you'd see Buhari, Gbajabiamila, Oyetola, others mourn Olubadan. Debt service pressures to persist in 2022, that's according to report. NCPF felicitates with Nigerians, urges peace, unity in 2022. The next story there, Senate probes 200 million subscription scam in scrapped PPPRA. And then you see also alleged rape at Premier Academy. Will Karen family ever get justice? That's a big question mark there. Also, not to forget the stories at the top. There you would see banditry, Sokoto to review security containment order. Bandits kill 7 in 3 Kaduna local government areas. You see Nigeria courts $32.3 billion forex turnover in 2021. NBF to Buhari, end insecurity, tackle food crisis in 2022. 2 teenagers drown in Ilorin River on New Year Eve. These are some of the stories on the Blueprint newspaper. I must say,
Quite interesting.
very, very interesting stories. Well, we are quite, I would say, at a threshold, awaiting to see what they really have for us.
The story about tackling insecurity in 2022, Ayuba. This is more like, you know, a forecast with saying with 12 trillion budget in 7 years, Nigerians set agenda for troops and others.
Yeah, I mean, the security budget, we've seen an increase, you know, over the years, you know, from 1 trillion naira to about 2.4 trillion naira, you know, within this period from 2016 till date. And that just shows, you know, how much of a priority the issue of security is, you know, in the country. It's a conversation that is on the lips of virtually everyone. And we are talking, okay, budgeting. And one thing that, got my attention and got me thinking really is the fact that with all of this budgeting, the security situation do not seem to be, you know, abating. Things are just getting worse.
Exactly. You know,
every day.
as it also states here, experts are saying results do not justify expenditure. You know.
Yeah, and in I think in 5 years, in between 2016 till date, the military alone was allocated about 4 trillion naira.
Huge. Okay.
Just the military alone. We are not even talking
the police,
the NSCDC, and the other paramilitary security agencies that we have in the country. So one wonders and one asks the question, with all of this budgeting, yet the security situation seems to be getting worse. We complain about this lack of manpower, in the security system, and so one wonders, okay, what's the way out?
Exactly. Well, that's the question everybody is asking.
What's the way out?
Are we doing something wrong?
Exactly. There have been several calls, even by people in authority, that Nigerians have given the mandate to ensure the protection of their lives, calling on them to, defend themselves and take responsibility for their own security. Yes, we cannot take away the place of, being vigilant, providing information to security officials and all of that. But as ordinary citizens, unarmed, you are confronted with someone that is armed.
There's very little you can do.
How are you expected to actually defend yourself? That's a big question that must be answered. If you are defending yourself, you need to use something to defend yourself. And
I really don't think taking up arms as citizens is the way to go, because it's going to be bloody.
Now, let's even say, okay, we have vigilante groups.
Truly.
Yeah, maybe you make arrangement for vigilante groups. Yes, we've seen that in some states.
Yes.
Like the civilian JTF in Borno State, for instance, all right? But these are organized, groups. The government organized them and, gave them arms. And they are, working hand in hand with the security officials. So if that could be done in an organized manner, then I'm sure we would get ahead in this fight against insecurity. But even that has its own challenges. Part of the fear that has been expressed by experts is that what's the guarantee that you can actually control this group of people that you are giving arms to?
Exactly.
And in any case, I listened to the governor of Katsina State over the weekend in a video where he was, calling on residents to defend themselves. And he says that the police are ready to register any citizen with arms, which means that we are now admitting that we have people that are armed, unlicensed, and without authorization.
My goodness.
So what does that spell, for our country and for our society? I mean, for a governor to admit that if you have arms, come to the police, it will be registered.
This is not the first time.
It's like putting the horse
said something like this
before the cart, right? It's like you are instead of, first of all, registering your arm
before you come forward.
Before having access to the arm, you are now assumed to have that arm.
So you just we've come and get them registered.
Yes, we talk about arms proliferation. So for me, it's not really about the call for ordinary people to defend themselves that is really of concern to me. Yes, I mean, if we get to where our security apparatus is overwhelmed, just like they are, at the moment. Yes, we might need to think about, some sort of arrangement, maybe community policing, like some people have been saying, or some kind of vigilante grouping and all of that. But the one that concerns me is the fact that we know that there is, a proliferation of arms, and it's as if we have come to accept that, look, this is it, all right? We know that you have arms, but just come forward, register them. Anyone who has that kind of weapon, in the first place, should know that, or should be considered, first of all, is having illegal is in a possession of illegally. Yes, is in a possession of arm illegally. So first of all, let's talk about first the criminality of it, of being in possession of weapon illegally.
We're not actually talking about the criminality of possessing weapons. Still talking about the vigilante groups coming to play in these communities. Recently, some elder statesmen in Zamfara State deemed it fit to come together, to actually advocate for people coming together to donate money to actually pay a group of vigilante to man some of their, host communities. And it's really a beautiful initiative, but as you've said, if it's going to be controlled as it should be, it's going to go a long way, in helping, help tackle security situation at the community level.
And for me, if you ask me, the structured way to go about this, is to look at the conversation about community policing. We've had committees upon committees that have made recommendations, regarding this whole thing.
Well, that seems to be tossed away to the side.
You understand? So if maybe we could have this community policing arrangement, and that community policing arrangement will formalize, this whole conversation about, having some kind of vigilante, arrangement. And I think that will be much more structured than just rather than saying, in a blanket manner that residents or citizens or indigents should defend themselves. I think that maybe we should look at this conversation about community policing. It's long overdue. We've spoken about it. A lot of experts have suggested it. And here we are. We're still having the same structure. And, I mean,
terrible outcome.
Someone says that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expect a different result. It seems to me like what we are doing right now, we are not changing the structure to accommodate the recent realities that we are confronted with, which is, you know, like the whole conversation about community policing or state policing or whichever, you know, you want to consider it. We should begin to see some kind of massive recruitment of security personnel across board.
Right.
Not just, you know, waiting for the police, you know, from Abuja to be posted to state, you know, but let's have states and local governments making security arrangements, you know, I mean, lasting security arrangements that will have the backing of the law.
Right. You know, as a lot of people have actually said, there's so much power at the center. You know, when you're talking about recruitment and all of that, everybody mentions Abuja. Everybody wants everything to come from Abuja. And I think that's one of the problems we're having. There's too much power at the center. If there's going to be a dissolution of that, you know, to the lower level, it's really going to go a long way.
Really. If I may add, some says too much power at the center and the center can no longer hold.
Yes, yes, it can't.
Yes, so it's very important that these things are taken seriously. The issue of insecurity is taking the life out of Nigeria. I saw one other projection by an economist about the life expectancy in Nigeria. Nigeria is the, I think in the index, Nigeria is the fourth, you know, where life really do not have value, and the life expectancy is just barely about 50% or so.
That's not a good ranking to be on.
So you can see how bad, you know, things are for us here in the country, and
we really hope
the urgent need for us to, you know, some say declare a state of emergency, but
it's
again,
not really the answer to our problem.
I mean, if the tenets, if the principles of a state of emergency will be followed through, you know, like the word or like the phrase, you know, signifies, then I'm sure that it will make some differences. But the problem is, if we say declare state of emergency and all the structures that need to be in place are not in place, then definitely you are likely not to see any result, you know, from that. And so that's the basic concern that some experts have expressed, you know, as far as this insecurity issue is concerned. But trust me, 7 trillion naira, you know, no, 12 trillion naira actually in 7 years. That's quite on the high. It is said that Nigeria has one of the highest budgetary allocation in Africa, in the sub-region, as far as fight against insecurity is concerned. In fact, even in the entire continent, Nigeria has one of the highest, you know, aside South Africa and other countries like Kenya and the rest of them. But, you know, it just goes to show you that something needs to be done urgently. And I think and I believe that this urgent, you know, recruitment, you know,
to help,
of security personnel,
yes,
rather than just making a blanket statement to say,
defend yourselves.
Defend yourselves. I mean, if we say defend yourself, we have to answer the question of how.
Do we defend ourselves?
How? You know, so that is very important. It's as important as, you know, defending yourself itself. So if you must defend yourself, then there should be a how, and that question should be answered. And I think that government must go beyond the talking.
And let's see more of the action.
But in a situation where you find that a person look at the
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that